Hi, and welcome to Administering Google Workspace. In this course, we'll look at the process for launching your company or organization onto the Google Workspace platform. I'll start by showing you the various account types. We'll go over signing up for Workspace, setting up your company profile, and choosing services. For teams moving from other platforms, I'll show you how to migrate your existing data, and for teams starting fresh, we'll walk through setting up new user accounts. I'll show you how to create Google Groups, set up admin privileges, manage mobile devices, create and manage user accounts with organizational units, and cover other helpful features to get you and your team organized. So, let's get started with administering Google Workspace. Before getting started with this course, we'll want to have a working knowledge of IT terminology, as well as a general understanding of web-based or cloud-based software. It will also be helpful to know the approximate size of your organization in terms of the number of users, as this will determine how you'll approach the user account creation process. An organization chart may also be useful, which can help you determine the need for organizational units and possibly the type and number of domain administrators. You should also be familiar with your organization's privacy and security policies so you can make informed decisions on which apps can be enabled within your domain. Formerly Google Apps or G Suite, Google Workspace is a collection of cloud-based applications provided by Google. The cloud refers to applications that live on the web and are not stored on a local computer. Cloud-based applications are accessed via an internet connection, typically through a web browser. And although in most cases documents can be exported or downloaded from the application to one's local machine, the documents are saved. With traditional desktop application suites, documents were saved locally. Users would then share the documents with others by attaching the file to an email and sending, or saving to portable storage. With applications in the cloud, the document is saved online, where multiple users can access it. This enables a number of collaborative features which would not otherwise be. At the center of Google services is Google Drive, an online file storage service that also includes desktop storage and synchronization, as well as Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drawings, and Forms. Files saved to Google Drive can be used as attachments in Gmail and Google Calendar. Photos stored in Drive can be moved to the Google Photos app, while documents created in Drive may be shared and collaborated upon with other Google users. Additionally, the Google Drive desktop application can be installed locally on your computer, enabling document synchronization between Drive and any other device in which the client or app is installed. Where Google initially provided 1 GB of storage to its users, this amount has steadily increased to keep pace with the larger storage demand of multimedia files. A single Google user account has a storage quota shared between Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Photos. Users have the freedom to share and collaborate from any internet-enabled device or location. This includes mobile devices where the Google Drive app may be downloaded and installed. Multiple users can edit Google Docs simultaneously, and a revision history is managed, logging all changes to the document and making it possible to roll back undesired changes. Documents created and modified using the Google Docs file format do not count against a user's storage quota and can be made available for offline viewing and editing. Similarly, photos only count against a user's storage quota if stored in the original quality, while photos stored in Google's high-quality mode do not. Most of Google's services require a Google account, which provides access to Google's suite of applications. Though some applications such as YouTube and Google Docs can be accessed and used by non-Google users without signing in, an account is required to make use of the full range of collaborative and file storage features. A public Google account is free to sign up for, and it may be used to access not only the standard Google Workspace, but additional Google services not included in the Google Workspace suite of applications. Google provides an assortment of apps and services to the public for free, and you may already use many of these, such as Gmail, YouTube, Blogger, and Google Drive. Google Workspace is a specialized selection of apps designed specifically for the needs of businesses and organizations. These include Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Hangouts, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Sites, Photos, Keep, and Vault, which is an information governance and data management tool exclusive to Google Workspace that is not part of the public Google suite of applications. Your Workspace account may also grant you access to additional services, such as YouTube and Blogger, if enabled by your administrator. One of the most important services in Google Workspace is the ability to brand your install with your own customized domain. Where in the public version of Gmail, your email address ends with gmail.com, in Workspace, you may customize your email address and use your company domain name. When you log in to your Workspace account, you'll need to use your full email address as the username to distinguish your username within your domain from similar ones registered with public Google services or other Workspace domains. For example, when I use the Google sign-in page to log into my work email, instead of typing my username only, my login would include both my username as well as the domain, which indicates I'm logging into my work account. The public Google apps are free, but Google earns revenue by including advertisements within Gmail and other services, and keywords within your email and documents may be used to tailor advertising specifically to you. Additionally, services such as YouTube Premium and additional storage in Google Drive may be paid for on a subscription basis. Since Workspace is used by businesses and private organizations, Google Workspace for Business gives you the option to enable or disable advertising for your domain. In some versions, such as Google Workspace for Education, advertising is disabled entirely. Google serves as a data processor for your organization and makes it explicitly clear that any data saved on their servers is owned by the organization using the service, and data is not sold by third parties or used for targeted advertising. As always, it's best practice to review all terms of service and privacy documentation carefully to ensure that the agreement complies with the service and privacy expectations for your organization. For public Google accounts, users are given a limited amount of storage that is shared between all apps, though you can choose to purchase more space if desired. Users of Google Workspace are given more storage, which can vary from 30 gigabytes in the Business Starter Plan to unlimited storage in some enterprise versions. Also, since businesses must rely on their administrative tools, Google provides support 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and guarantees 99.9% uptime with zero scheduled downtime for maintenance. So what does it mean for your organization to adopt Google Workspace? In short, it means that you're using a version of Workspace that has been branded and customized for you. Your domain is typically the web address of your organization, or what follows the @ symbol in your organization's email. When your organization adopts Workspace, your email address and username can stay the same, though Google gives you much more than just a branded email address. Your Workspace account is a Google account, and with this account, you can potentially use any of Google's services and applications. The applications at your disposal are limited, however, to those enabled by your domain. Through the Google Workspace Administrative Console, found at admin.google.com, users with certain levels of admin access have the ability to enable and disable specific Workspace apps and services. As a result, when you're logged into your organization's Workspace account, some services may be unavailable. For example, your company uses Workspace, but opted to stay with their current email application, and thus disabled Gmail for the domain. If you, as an employee, navigate to Gmail while logged into your company Google account, you would see this message. We're sorry, you do not have access to Gmail. Please log into your admin console to enable Gmail. This doesn't mean that you cannot use the service at all. You can still access it using your public Google account. It does, however, prohibit you from using the service with your company Workspace account. Google's collaborative features not only allow you to share documents publicly or privately with specific users and groups, but also enable levels of sharing specifically within your domain. A document available to all users in your domain would require anyone attempting to view the document to sign in with their Workspace address to verify their access privileges. This allows you to make documents and files accessible only to those within your organization, while keeping them private from the public. Likewise, when you invite a user outside your domain to a calendar event or attempt to share a document with them, you'll be prompted to confirm that you want to involve external users. There are many versions of Google Workspace available, and pricing will vary depending on a number of factors, including the type of organization, video meeting needs, per-user storage. These include plans designed for organizations which include small and large businesses, healthcare, government, education, and nonprofits. The plans outlined in this video reflect Google's current offerings at the time of this recording, which are subject to change in the future. Be sure to consult the Google Workspace Editions page for the most up-to-date information. Google for Business has 4 primary versions of Workspace: Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, and Enterprise. Additionally, customized editions of these are available for nonprofit, government, and educational institutions. All versions provide the standard Workspace applications and Google accounts branded for your domain, while differing slightly in terms of storage capacity, price, and some version-specific features and functions. Let's take a look at the key differences between those, which may help you decide the version that best meets the needs of your organization. Business Starter offers 30 gigabytes of cloud storage per user, as well as custom and secure business email. Additional features and services include 100 participant video meetings, security and management controls, and standard support. Business Standard includes all features of Business Starter, with 2 terabytes of cloud storage per user, and 150 participant video meetings with recording capability. Business Plus offers 5 terabytes of storage per user, and 250 video meetings with recording and attendance tracking. It also includes enhanced security and management controls, which include Google Vault and advanced endpoint management. Finally, Enterprise includes unlimited storage with video meeting capabilities that include noise cancellation and in-domain live streaming. Advanced security controls also include encryption, enterprise endpoint management, data region controls, and the highest level of priority. Specialized versions of Workspace are also available for other types of organizations to match their specific needs. Workspace for Education adheres to the privacy standards outlined in the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act and includes productivity tools geared toward teaching and learning. Workspace for Nonprofits includes features like ad grants and access to Google Earth Pro. Workspaces for Government adheres to the Federal Information Security Management Act standards and offers the data security and privacy protections to comply with government data security requirements, including multi-factor authentication, double encryption, and advanced password protection controls. Once you've chosen a plan for your organization, you may be ready to get started. But it's important to take a moment to review Google's privacy and security agreements before moving forward. Since businesses and organizations have different, often stricter guidelines for privacy than the general public, the Google Workspace User Agreement guarantees much more strict privacy policies than the public Google services. Google sets clear expectations for data ownership. For Google Workspace users, Google agrees to keep your data as long as users require them to keep it, and ensures the user can take their data with them should they choose to use an external service in conjunction with Google Workspace, or stop using their services altogether. Any other scanning or indexing of data on Google's end is entirely automated for the purpose of spam and malware protection, email sorting, and the indexing of documents for search. While your data is saved on Google's secured servers, you retain sole ownership of your data, which will only be accessed by you and others to whom you delegate access. Google cannot share your data with a third party, will not use it for advertising, and it will only be used by Google for the purpose of delivering their contractually obligated services. There are, however, specific circumstances in which Google may access or share your data. First is requests by government or court order to access or remove data. While Google must comply with these requests, Google has an established process and strict guidelines for handling them. Legal or government requests for data must be specific in purpose and scope, meaning that in the event of a court-ordered request of your data, the request must contain reasonable justification for accessing the data, and the scope of the access will be limited only to what's absolutely necessary to fulfill a request. Additionally, Google provides a transparency report page, which contains detailed statistics related to government and court-ordered requests to remove the information. This can be viewed online at google.com/transparency report. Access to your data may also be required in order for Google to fulfill technical support obligations requested by you or your system administrator. In these cases, Google operates under a least privilege access policy, meaning the support employee is given access to the minimum level of resources and information necessary to complete the support request, and uses this access possible standards for data security. Lastly, when accessing your data via the web, Google provides the option for all data to travel solely through encrypted tunnels to ensure that users have sole access to their password-protected data. I hope you now have a general understanding of Google's privacy and security policies. In the end, the best practice for any organization is to carefully read the terms of service for your workspace plan in its entirety, and be sure to contact Google Help and Support regarding any points which are unclear. Since Google services and web applications are cloud-based, updates are rolled out automatically with no need for installation or purchase. Google consistently works to add new features to their services, with several updates rolling out per month. To provide stability for organizations who may wish to evaluate new features and train staff, these updates may take longer to reach Google Workspace domains. Some may be modified when released, while others may not be released at all. While this can seem inconvenient, it's an advantage over locally installed software, where users must purchase new updates or risk running outdated software. It should also be noted that this course reflects the current state of Google applications. You might notice a few differences in your interface as compared to mine. When in doubt, consult Google's documentation or contact Google Support directly. Through the Administrative Console, which we'll discuss in detail in a later chapter, under Account Settings, Preferences, New User Features, admins may customize their release schedule for their domain by selecting one of two options: the Scheduled Release Track or the Rapid Release Track. These update tracks apply specifically to Workspace core services, which include Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Sites, Contacts, Google Drive, and Google Docs formats. Organizations on the Rapid Release schedule receive new services as soon as they're available. This option may be attractive to small organizations where staff training and support needs are minimal, and information can be disseminated quickly to users affected by the changes. Larger organizations, with large numbers of users, may need more time to evaluate new services before releasing them to their domain. Domains on the Scheduled Release track have more time for evaluation and training. Scheduled releases happen on Tuesdays, approximately a week after rapid release updates. Because scheduled releases happen after rapid release, an organization that moves from rapid release to scheduled release could potentially lose functionality if the upgrade has not yet been released on the scheduled track. Deciding which schedule depends on your training needs for your organization, as well as the estimated number of affected users. For newly released products and services, Google offers the option to either have users automatically receive them as they're available, or have them remain inactive until manually enabled by an administrator. This option is also available through the profile area of the Administrative Console, and some changes may take up to 24 hours to take effect. You also have the option to subscribe to email updates and newsletters through the Communication Preferences area. Google also provides a Workspace release calendar to make for a more stable experience for users. The calendar is available at workspace.google.com/what's new, and it highlights all release dates for both the rapid and scheduled releases, along with links to more information about the updates. Additionally, if you're interested in learning more about upcoming Workspace updates, as well as general usage tips, Google maintains the Workspace Updates blog at workspaceupdates.googlblog.com. To get started with Google Workspace, you'll want to start at the sign-up page. If you aren't sure whether or not you're ready to commit for the long term, you're granted a 14-day trial period, during which you can test drive Google Workspace and create a limited number of user accounts. You can only have one Workspace account per domain, so if you already have a version of Workspace installed, you'll need to choose or purchase a different domain. To get started, navigate to the Google Workspace sign-up page and click Get Started to continue. Here, you will list the name of your business as well as the number of employees in your organization. This refers to the number of users who will need email accounts. Finally, select your country and continue. At the next screen, enter your name as well as a contact email address. While the email you use can be a Gmail address, do not use an email within the domain that you plan to use for Workspace, since Google needs to be able to contact you in the event that you're unable to access your account. Next, you'll be asked to specify your business domain name. If you do not have one, you may purchase one through Google. While not necessary, purchasing through Google makes it easier to later verify your domain and set up an email. But Google makes it explicitly clear that it does not give preferential treatment to domains purchased through partner services with regard to search results or indexing. If you have not yet chosen a domain address, here are a few tips to keep in mind. First, don't be in too much of a hurry. Choosing a domain is an important branding decision for your organization, and it cannot be easily changed later if you don't like what you've chosen. You'll want something relatively short and easy to type, while still clearly indicating the name of your organization. You'll want your domain to be unique and memorable, but avoid numbers and hyphens if possible, as those lead to confusion when you need to share your domain address. Use an appropriate extension, and only deviate from .com when appropriate or if you absolutely must. Lastly, do the proper research to determine if the name is available, and solicit feedback before making a final decision. Your domain serves as a public label for your organization online, so choose carefully. At this stage, Google verifies that a Workspace account is not yet associated with this domain before allowing you to continue. If you already have your own domain, or have purchased your new domain, you may proceed with the next steps in the Workspace sign-up process. Since I have a domain already, I'll indicate that I have one, and then enter it, minus the HTTP, in the field provided and press Next. Here, you may indicate whether or not you want to automatically opt your users into Google Workspace information emails. That's up to you. Just remember, your users can always opt out later. Lastly, you must now choose a username that will serve not only as the inaugural user in your Workspace domain, but as super administrator who will have the highest level access to administrative console functions. You'll be able to appoint additional admins later if you wish, but for now, enter a username and a strong password and continue. From here, you'll be allowed to create users, though the number will be limited if you have not yet set up billing. You'll also need to verify your domain before you can proceed. You can do it now, or manually do it later through the admin console, but you'll be unable to use any Workspace applications until domain verification is complete. If you've already chosen your domain and set up your inaugural account, you'll have access to the Google Workspace admin console. However, before you can use any Google Workspace services, you must first verify that you own the domain to which the Workspace account is associated. To begin this process, click the Verify Domain button at the top of the admin console. From here, Google will auto-detect your domain's host. This process involves making a back-end edit that Google can verify. If you've already purchased the domain through Google's partners, verification may already be taken care of for you. Otherwise, you will need to complete the domain verification process. Google gives you options for verifying your domain: adding a text or CNAME record to your domain's DNS settings, or adding a meta tag to the code on your homepage. Depending on the method, it can take up to 72 hours to verify your domain. We'll take a look at each of the verification methods to determine the best method for your domain. If you did not set up your organization website and do not know your domain host, check with your website administrator. The recommended and most reliable method is to add a text or CNAME record to your domain's DNS settings. This requires accessing your DNS settings at the domain host's website. Google will provide you a list of domain registrars and providers and give you a text record to add to your DNS configuration, as well as instructions for where to find the DNS settings to add the record. The steps for completing this process may be slightly or even dramatically different, depending on your web host. Reach out to your host directly for assistance, or opt for one of the other methods of verifying your domain. The alternate method for verifying your domain is to add a meta tag to your site. From the Workspace console, choose Meta Tag as your option for verification. You'll be provided a meta tag code to insert in the head section of your site's homepage HTML code. Add this to your homepage, save your changes, and then view your page. Once you verify the code is there, return to the Google Admin Console and click the Verify button. If you were unable to data migration service works with Microsoft Exchange servers, IMAP servers, and other existing Workspace accounts. First, indicate the migration source, which is the type of source server from which you're importing. networks altogether. Microsoft or other IMAP servers can only import one of these at a time. Additionally, you'll need to specify the connection protocol as well as the role account of your source's server that will receive the migration reports. If you're unsure whether your current email will import with Google's data migration service, contact Google Support or your local system administrator. Users in your domain also have the option to migrate their calendar and contacts manually. They'll need to be logged into their accounts to access these features. Within most calendaring programs, users can export in CSV or Apple iCal formats. They'll need to import this file through Google Calendar. While they appear on the calendar, recurring events will likely be copied as individual events rather than a recurring single event. Once users import their events, they should double-check the import. A similar process can be used for migrating contact lists. Again, users will need to export their current contacts list as a CSV. To import, open Google Contacts and select Import. Whether you use the migration tool or manual migration, calendar import is not a perfect process, and you should expect there will be some cleanup to do. As mentioned earlier, recurring events may be broken. Event title and description formats may look different, and some special formatting features of your old calendar program may not transfer entirely. If possible, having your old calendar and contacts list available for future reference can be useful in the event that you run into an event that did not import correctly. If you're unable to do so, be sure to at least save the export files which contain all the data saved in your original location. It certainly never hurts to have a backup. Introducing Google Workspace for your organization involves more than simply activating new software. You're introducing new tools and processes, and you want to keep your users supported and informed. It may be helpful to review Google's free enterprise deployment resources, found at support.google.com. The guide includes technical deployment documentation, logo and product icon guidelines, and tools for your company's help desk. Also included is a guide for running a 5-step pilot, introducing Google Workspace to first a small number of users before the rest of the domain switches over. This is particularly recommended for large organizations providing a smaller scale trial and pinpointing any issues or challenges that may crop up in a larger migration. Users are able to maintain their current mail service during a pilot test. Now, let's take a look at the Workspace deployment process, as well as some tips and resources that may help you during your launch. Google advises releasing Workspace in 3 phases, allowing you to test in small, specialized user groups before releasing to the larger community. First, the core IT support team, who had received training and information for supporting the rest of the staff. The next group would be a specifically selected group of early adopters. Potentially, early adopters may include administrative assistants, tech-savvy power users, as well as directors and supervisors who may point out potential areas of concern for their specific work groups. Finally, Workspace should be deployed to the entire organization. Depending on the number of users in your domain and your organization's complexity, this process may involve more or less phases. But this model provides a reliable framework from which to begin. Within each of these phases are 3 sub-phases: get ready, communicate, and train. These sub-phases may also overlap as you release Workspace to your different user groups, and you should be prepared for each group to have different support needs. Now, let's take a closer look at these tasks. An important decision during the Get Ready phase is determining which Google apps you plan to use in your domain, and you'll want to have these decided ahead of time, rather than enabling all of them and turning them off later. You may also want to consider which collaborative tools you'll be using as part of your workflow. Will you want your users to primarily use Google Docs and save and share documents using Google Drive? Will you use Google Groups primarily as a mailing list, or do you want to use the message board features? It's best to make these decisions in the first 2 phases of your rollout, if not before then, as you'll receive important input from your IT and early adopter groups. The Communicate tasks include designing your marketing and communication plans and getting your information to your users. You'll want to develop this plan before launching your full marketing campaign. An important goal of communication and marketing is to create enthusiasm for the upcoming Google transition. As part part of this process, a Workspace support webpage tailored to your organization is an excellent way to ensure your users have detailed information and a clear timeline of the Google migration process. Finally, once your users have been informed of the changes coming their way, they must be properly trained to use Workspace. Training outreach may include help sheets, in-person workshops, one-on-one coaching, video screencasts, or ideally some combination of all of these. Google provides additional training resources for Workspace at workspace.google.com/training, which are aimed at new transitioning Workspace users. Some resources include the basics of signing in, mail migration overview, comparison between Gmail and Outlook, and mobile setup instructions. Google provides two billing plans for Google Workspace, the Flexible Plan and the Annual Plan. Both plans charge monthly depending on the number of users and allow you to add users at any time for an additional cost, but the rest of the details vary between the two. You'll want to be familiar with the two plans so you can determine the best choice for your organization. As of the date of this recording, both the Flexible and Annual plans bill at the same monthly rate of $6 per user for Workspace Business Starter, $12 per user for Standard, and $18 per user for Plus. Both allow users to be added at any time for additional monthly cost. Also, during the 14-day trial of Workspace, you have the option to switch between the Flexible and Annual plans at any time. As indicated by the name, the Flexible plan is designed for organizations with a variable number of users, providing the flexibility to add or remove users at any time, and with your monthly cost adjusting accordingly. If you remove a user between the 1st and 15th of the month, you'll only be charged for half the month. Since you're committed to only a month-by-month contract, should you no longer wish to use Workspace, you can cancel at any time without penalty. The Annual plan requires a one-year commitment to Workspace from the date you activate your service, charging the full year subscription up front. You can add users whenever you like, but you can only remove users when renewing your annual contract. Until your renewal date, you'll be billed monthly for all your purchase licenses, and you must continue to pay for the full annual commitment period, even if you should decide to cancel your account. The Annual plan is only available for online purchase, and you must contact a Google sales representative if you're interested. Following the end of your trial, you may switch from the Flexible plan to the Annual plan. However, since the Annual plan establishes a year-long contract, you're unable to switch back until the end of your contract year. Keep in mind that business pricing differs from Workspace for education or nonprofits editions. Additionally, not all billing plans are available in all countries, and some details may vary. If you're currently using Workspace, you can see which version you're using, as well as the billing plan, by clicking Billing from the homepage of the Google Admin Console. The Google Workspace Administrator Console is where admin-level users can manage all Workspace services and settings for the domain. You can reach the Admin Console at admin.google.com. You may also directly reach it while signed into any Google service, which displays the Google App Launcher at the top of the screen. To get to the Admin Console using the App Launcher, click the grid icon and then choose Admin. Either of these methods will bring you directly to the Admin Console for your domain. The icons on the dashboard link to various areas of the Admin Console. You can add, remove, and manage users, update your company information and profile, view or modify billing information, manage all Google groups in your domain, add and view domains and domain aliases, get help and support, and view usage reports. The hourglass icon displays any completed or in-progress administrative tasks, which could include downloads and uploads of user information or device data. You may view your admin tasks or those of other administrators, and any activities beyond 15 days are automatically cleared from the list. To see additional details regarding a task, click the gray See Details link below the task. If you have questions regarding Workspace, you may either select Support from the Admin Console or click the question mark icon in the top right corner. Either one will open a pop-up window where an automated assistant can search the full index of Google's help documentation, as well as show important alerts regarding Google service issues. From this menu, you also have the option to contact Google support via chat, phone, or email. When submitting troubleshooting data using these methods, be sure to remove any sensitive or confidential data from view, such as passwords or confidential business records. Using the search bar at the top of the screen, you can quickly locate users, aliases, or groups in your domain. As you type in the search bar, the top user and group results will appear below. Clicking the magnifying glass displays a full list of search results, which may stretch across multiple pages. Lastly, in the right sidebar, you'll find administrative tips and suggestions, tools such as the data export and the user transfer tool, and links to other resources such as the Workspace Status Dashboard and Google Workspace Marketplace. From the Admin Console, select Account Settings. Under Profile, you'll see your organization name. You should have already specified this during your initial setup, but you can also edit it here. Organization name is used not only as a label for your Workspace admin homepage, but it's also the primary identifier for your domain. For example, when you share resources in Google Workspace, you'll have the ability to share only within your domain, which will be identified by the organization name. In the event that your organization uses multiple domains, you may choose to give each domain a different label depending on its purpose. Your support message appears when your users require login assistance. You may wish to customize this message if Google does not manage your user database and you have a specific page for your users to manage their account details. In such a case, you'll want to provide a link to that page, as well as some general instructions on how to proceed and what to expect. Even if your user management is handled through Google, you may still wish to customize the default message to match the tone of your organization, which may be welcomed in the event that your users have to go through the password change process. Language and time zone establish the default settings for both your users and your domain admin console. Your choice for both should reflect what applies to most members of your organization. Apps users in your domain will have the ability to change their own personal language and time zone for their individual accounts without affecting other users. The Preferences area includes settings for new user features, new product rollout preferences, as well as communication preferences for receiving product update information. In communication preferences, you can specify which emails the admin for your domain will receive from Google. While these may be of interest, you also have the option to get much of this information through other outlets, such as the Google Workspace blog, or following specific social media outlets for various Google services. Smart Features and Personalization allows you to set the default value for features like automatic filtering and categorization, Smart Compose, Smart Reply, and other similar features in Gmail, Chat, and Meet. You may opt to not set a default value for your users, or opt them into certain features by default. Users will have the option to disable these features, and changes may take up to 24 hours to take effect. Within the Personalization section, you have the option to upload a logo. The logo appears at the top right corner in apps such as Gmail and Drive. Supplemental data storage specifies data regions which require manual opt-in for your data to be stored there. The Legal and Compliance area provides general security and privacy information, which may be required for compliance with your organization's security and privacy policies. Information here includes the location of data centers, third-party subprocessors, privacy certifications, and a general overview of workspace security policies. Also here is an area for the contact information of the Enterprise Data Privacy Officer for your organization. Data regions allow you to set policies for regions where your data will be stored. These regions may be specified by organizational unit, and Google specifies that these data region policies cover only certain core service data, and that enabling region-specific data storage may result in performance trade-offs. If you no longer wish to use Workspace, you may delete your account under Account Management, Delete Account. This will revoke access to Workspace on your domain. Deleting your account will not unsubscribe you from Google services, so be sure and cancel your subscriptions first before deleting your account. Lastly, custom URLs allow you to customize the URLs for individual Google apps. You'll need to set up CNAME records through your domain host to use this feature. Utilizing Google Workspace for your organization can gives you access to many web apps and services. However, you may not want all of these apps to be available on your domain. When deciding which services to enable, consider how your business processes and procedures will mesh with the many capabilities and features of Workspace. This will reduce the chances of unexpected or undesirable surprises during implementation. There are 5 types of apps: Google Workspace Core Services, Additional Google Services, Web and Mobile Apps, Google Workspace Marketplace Apps, and SAML apps. You may view a summary of which apps fall under each category by clicking the respective categories, but we'll take a look at each right now. Google Workspace Core Services are governed by your Google Workspace agreement. Additional Google Services are services provided by Google and accessed through a Google account, but are not part of the core suite of applications. These include, but are not confined to, Blogger, YouTube, Google Maps, App Maker, and Google Photos. Many of these have public or commercial functionality, and in turn have different privacy agreements than the standard Workspace core apps. Relatively new is the Web and Mobile Apps area, where you can manage settings and user access for Android, iOS, and SAML apps. Google Workspace Marketplace apps are designed by third parties and can be added to your Workspace domain. Some marketplace apps may require the purchase of licenses, which must be managed for individual users to allow them to use the application. Lastly, SAML apps are a list of partner services like Amazon Web Services or Dropbox that can be set up to allow for single sign-on using Google Authentication. These are now managed in the Web and Mobile Apps area. Be sure and consult the documentation for the service for more information on how to configure them and operate within the Google single sign-on. While you could choose to enable all Workspace applications, you should take time to review app functionality before enabling them in your domain, and make sure that the tools that you enabled are in line with the training and process goals for your users. Additionally, you want to make sure that the privacy policy of your enabled apps complies with privacy policies of your organization. Be especially careful to review the terms of service for marketplace apps before enabling them in your domain. To manage apps and services on your domain, open the admin console and click Apps. You'll find a quick summary of how many Workspace, Google Services, and Marketplace apps are enabled on your domain. You can click each of these categories for more details. I'm going to look at Workspace, and as you can see, all of my Workspace apps are currently set to On for everyone. This means that all users can use all apps on this list. You have the option of turning apps off for everyone, or on for specific groups of users. We'll look at enabling apps for specific groups of users or organizational units later in this course. Remember that disabling user access to certain apps means that they may not access these services while logged in with their Workspace account. This does not restrict users from accessing these apps and services while using their own personal Google account, or, in the case of apps such as YouTube, while not logged in at all. Google Workspace is a web-based service, and while Google guarantees 99.9% uptime for Workspace users, service disruptions and outages are still a possibility. It's important to know where to go for more information should you believe you're experiencing a service disruption. If the link is not visible in the right panel of your admin console, you can view the current reported status of Google's application by navigating to www.google.com/appsstatus. The Workspace Status homepage displays the full list of Workspace apps, separating those covered by the Workspace Service Level Agreement and those not covered. A dot appears to each of the apps showing its current status. Green indicates no issues. Orange indicates an unscheduled service disruption, while pink indicates a planned service outage. You may also click Older and Newer to scroll through the app status history spanning back as far as 2 months. If a service disruption does appear, hovering over the event displays the approximate time span of the disruption. Clicking on it displays detailed information. This information will include the approximate date and time in which Google first became aware of the issue, subsequent updates, and the eventual resolution, which is indicated by a green dot. The update description includes relevant information pertaining to the service disruption, which may include an approximation of the number of affected users and the effects of the disruption, which could include slow app response time, delay possibly even an app being entirely unavailable. If a green dot does not yet appear, the issue is likely still occurring and is not yet resolved. While Google typically resolves service disruptions quickly, an extended service outage spanning several hours or, in some rare cases, days, appears on the Workspace status grid as an extended line covering the full duration of the disruption. The Workspace status dashboard is not an automated service. Before an update can be posted, Google must be made aware of the problem and post an update. If an app does not appear to be functioning, but no notification is listed in the Workspace status dashboard, the Google support team may not yet be aware of the issue, or it may still be in the process of gathering information. If you think there may be a Workspace service disruption and an update has not yet appeared in the Workspace status dashboard, social media outlets such as Twitter can be a good source for up-to-minute information. A simple Twitter search for the affected Google app may possibly reveal other users who are experiencing service outages. Keep in mind, however, that unless this information comes from one of Google's verified outlets, Workspace status information from users on social media should not be treated as an official information source. The most reliable information will inevitably come from the Workspace status dashboard. If you are experiencing a Workspace service disruption, Google may not always be the source of the problem. Some issues may be localized on the user group, caused by an improper network configuration, a network firewall, or browser security settings. Whether the problem is on your end or Google's, contacting Workspace support is a reliable course of action, as Google's service and support team can either report your disruption to other users or provide you with information on how to troubleshoot on your end and possibly prevent the issue from happening again in the future. Once you've set up your domain, company profile, and services, you're ready to add users. This involves creating Google Workspace accounts for members of your organization. A user's Workspace login is their full email address, including the @ symbol and domain. This differentiates Workspace users from public Google accounts. Usernames have a 60-character limit and may contain letters, numbers, dashes, underscores, apostrophes, and periods. They're not case-sensitive and may not include plus and equal signs, brackets, and multiple consecutive periods. Passwords must be at least 8 characters long, are case-sensitive, and may contain any combination of ASCII characters. To add new users from the admin console, click Add a User in the Users area. You may also select the Users area and add new users from there. The Users area displays a list of all users within your domain. From here, you may create users, view user profiles, add organizational units, and more. We'll discuss organizational units at length later in this course. If you do not see the option to add new users, you may not have sufficient admin privileges to create them, and you'll want to consult a higher-level admin within your domain. When adding a new user, enter the user's first and last name and set a username. If you do not enter a password manually, you'll need to check the box to allow Google to auto-generate one. You may also optionally add a secondary email and phone number, which aid with account recovery. With the new user account created, you may now send the information to the user by selecting Email Login Info. Be sure to use an email address they currently have access to, and not their new Workspace address. Keep in mind that pending invitations will count against your total number of user licenses, and they expire after 30 days. You may also add multiple users at once. If you select bulk upload users from the Add User area, you can download a spreadsheet file to be filled with user data. You can then upload up to 500 user accounts at once, but smaller batches take less time to process. So be sure that all usernames and passwords correspond to Google's format restrictions, and double-check to make sure that you're not attempting to recreate an existing user. Otherwise, you may encounter an error during the import process. If you have an LDAP directory, bulk creation of user accounts can also be performed through Google's Cloud Directory Sync. Google provides resources and documentation for this migration method. A system administrator should contact Workspace support for assistance. If you have supervisory or admin users, you may also wish to grant certain accounts administrative privileges, allowing them to manage other users, groups, or services. We'll dive deeper into user privilege levels later in the course. Google Workspace provides flexible options for defining and managing administrative roles for your domain. Several factors will determine the number and type of administrator roles you need. While other users may be granted access to functions on the admin console, only a super admin has access to the admin roles area. System roles grant users task-specific administrative privileges. At the top of this hierarchy is the super admin, who can perform all administrative functions. Super admin-only tasks include setting up billing, assigning system roles, resetting admin passwords, and managing organizational units. Your account must always have at least one super administrator, and it's recommended you have at least two in the event that the other needs a password reset. Pre-built administrator roles are task-specific. For example, the user management admin's privileges are limited to those related to user management, such as creating and deleting user accounts, renaming users, password management, and viewing but not editing organizational units. A groups admin can view but not edit organizational units and user profiles, manage group membership, and access settings, delete groups, and create new groups. You must be a super administrator to manage system roles, as it involves managing other administrators. To grant a user admin privileges, hover over the role you want to assign the user and click Assign Admin. Then, click Assign Users. In the pop-up window, type the full name of the user you wish to add to this role. Enter additional usernames to assign multiple admins. You may also assign admins to all organizations or small organizational units. See the Managing User Access video for more information on organizational units. When you're done, click Assign Role. There may be situations where you need to define customized administrative roles. If you have a small support staff, you may wish to create small groups of administrative users who manage multiple tasks each, like, for example, an admin who can create and update org units but not delete them. To create a custom administrator role, click Create New Role. Give that role a name, preferably one that indicates the administrative privilege, and possibly a description as well. In this case, since I'm creating an administrator who can create organizational units, I'm going to go with Org Creator Admin. Once you've created the custom admin role, select their privileges from the privileges list. I'll select the ability to read, create, and update organizational units. I'll click Continue to see a summary of the privileges I've added, and click Create Role to finalize. At this point, I can now assign admins to this role. However, keep in mind that should you want to later delete the custom admin role, you'll need to remove all admins from that role before you can do so. Some organizations may contain smaller org units, and it could be helpful to administer users in smaller units rather than as an entire organization. If you have not created organizational units, you may want to first watch the Managing User Access video before proceeding. To assign a user management admin to an organizational unit, once you've added the administrator, look under the Organizational Unit column next to their name and click the pencil icon to change the org unit. Select the specific unit and then click Done to confirm the assignment. There are many apps and services you have the option to enable for your domain. For a variety of reasons, you may wish to manage user access to these services. Perhaps you'd like only your marketing team to have access to Blogger and YouTube, so they can manage the public web presence of your organization. Or perhaps you want to disable Google Wallet at your organization entirely, since you would rather limit purchasing to a trusted group of users. To do this, you'll need to manage which users have access to which services. This is accomplished through organizational units. Apps are enabled or disabled for specific organizational units to which users can be added or removed. While you can create or delete organizational units at any time, it's best to plan your access groups ahead of time to make it easier on your users. I've decided I'll restrict access to Blogger and YouTube to a marketing group. To do this, I create an organizational unit for the marketing group. From the admin console, I'll select Organizational Units. I'll click the plus sign to create a new org unit and name it Marketing Group, and then give it a description. If desired, I could also modify the parent organization organizational unit. If all looks good, I'll select Create. Next, I'll navigate to the Apps area and find Blogger, which is listed under Additional Google Services. Notice that Blogger is currently set to Off. From this list, I can only turn it on for everyone. Instead of doing that, however, I'll click on it. From this view, I can select a specific org unit to override the default service status. I'll select the marketing group, turn the service status on, and then click Override. Blogger is now enabled for only the marketing group, and its service status has been updated to Overridden. Clicking Inherit would return it to default settings, inheriting the default domain settings from trainingxyz.com. With that said, I can now add users to the marketing group, and I have two ways to do this. I can go to the user profile page and select Change Organizational Unit. Alternatively, from the general user list, I can select multiple users by clicking the checkboxes next to their icons, and then under More, select Change Organizational Unit. As mentioned earlier, you can also select organizations for users during account creation. If you plan to have hundreds or even thousands of users within your organization, you can see how it may be beneficial to map out your organizational units ahead of time, rather than shuffling them later. The user profile provides a rundown of a Google Workspace user's resource usage, access privileges, security settings, and managed devices. This is different from a user's public profile, which is editable by the user. This profile area is accessible only through the Google Admin Console, though much of this information is available for the user to view at myaccount.google.com. To view a Workspace user's profile, either click the user area and browse for a specific user, or directly search for the user using the search bar at the top of the Admin Console. Admins can view and manage user profiles within their domain, though depending on your admin privileges, you may not be able to view certain areas linked to the user profile, such as the license and device management. The user profile area also provides general information about a user, including name, picture, email address, and account status. Below the username and photo is the last time they logged into their Google account using their account credentials. Mail storage indicates the amount of storage space used in Gmail, and the doc's own indicates how many documents this user owns in Google Drive. This does not tell you how many documents this user has access to, as many users have documents they regularly access that are not owned by their account. Below the profile information are various account actions, including resetting the user password, adding the user to groups or organizational units, as well as suspending or deleting the user account. The user information area displays information such as contact information, email alias, and employee details. Short summaries are available by default, with more information visible by clicking on the arrow in the top right corner of each block. In the security section, admins can reset user passwords, toggle two-step verification and advanced protection, or prompt a password change at the next sign-in, which may be necessary if their account is suspected to be compromised. You may also reset the user's sign-in cookies, which will trigger a currently signed-in user to have to sign in again. Also found in this area is recovery information and any security keys held. Groups shows all groups which include the user, as well as the groups they own or manage, while admin rules displays any administrative privileges assigned. Apps provides a summary of which Workspace apps and services are enabled for this user. Manage devices displays any devices assigned to the user. Licenses shows any licenses corresponding to the user's account, and shared drives displays any shared drives which include the user. There are two ways to block users' access to Google services on your domain. The first is through suspension. The user account is preserved, but the user will be unable to sign in or receive new email or calendar invitations. The user can be put into suspended status at an administrator's discretion, and manually suspended accounts can be restored at any time through the user's area by opening the user profile and removing their account from suspension. To manually suspend a user as an admin, log into the Google Workspace Admin Console and click Users. From here, you can either browse for the user or search for them using the search bar. You can suspend the user from their profile page by clicking Suspend User from the left sidebar. You can also do this from the user list by clicking More at the far right of their name. Whichever method you choose, selecting Suspend User from the list of options suspends the user's account. Keep in mind that any user license fees will still apply to suspended Workspace users. Users may also be automatically suspended by Google's systems for high-risk behavior that breaches Google's terms of service. These violations may include signing up for services without meeting age requirements, suspicious login activity, or exceeding data transfer limits. Gmail limits include a sending limit of 2,000 per day, an auto-forwarding limit of 10,000 per day, and recipient limits of 2,000 per message and 10,000 recipients total within the domain, as well as 500 per message and 3,000 recipients total outside the domain. Should a user reach or exceed one of these limits, their account will be automatically moved into suspended status for anywhere from 1 to 24 hours, depending on the infraction, after which the limit is automatically reset. Typically, an administrator should be able to restore an account that has exceeded data transfer limits, though it might be worth your time to investigate what activity may have triggered the suspension to avoid it happening again. If a user is no longer with your organization, you probably want to delete the user account. Unlike suspending an account, deleting a Google user account deletes all Workspace data, including email and calendar data. Administrators performing the deletion have the choice to either delete items owned by the deleted user or transfer them to another user. The user data for deleted accounts is preserved for 5 days, after which the data is permanently deleted. In that time, you may restore the deleted user's account in the users area of the admin dashboard. Select the filter icon and choose to filter recently deleted users. Click the profile icon next to the user you would like to restore, and then click the bent arrow, which restores the account to the status it was in prior to deletion. If the account was suspended, then you'll need to remove the suspension before the account is active again. Many organizations use mailing lists to communicate with established groups of users using a single group address. A Google Groups address not only serves as a mailing list, but also enables users to share files and calendars, set permissions, and communicate using online discussion boards. There are 2 types of Google Groups within Workspace: Admin Console Groups and Google Groups for Business. Admin Console Groups may only be created by administrators through the Admin Console. Users can then use these groups for mailing lists as well as document and calendar sharing. While users cannot create Admin Console Groups, they may be given ownership privileges over groups once they're created and assigned to them. Admin Console Groups do not need to be activated on your domain, since only administrators can create them. Google Groups for Business allows users to create and manage their own groups without relying on IT staff or admin-level users. Groups share a collaborative inbox, allowing users to manage discussions and queries, and even respond to inquiries as a group. The group may be used for online discussion, with features including Q&A forums, searchable discussion archives, file attachments, response ranking, and message tagging. The availability of these features can be managed by the group owner under Group Settings. Groups for Business is a Google service that may be enabled or disabled from the Admin Console. To create a group from within the Admin Console, click Groups and then click Create Group. A dialog box appears where you can then add the group name, email address, description, and access level. Public groups may be joined by anyone in the domain, and all members can post, view membership, and read archives. A team group is like a public group, but only group managers may add members. An announcement-only group allows only managers to post and view members, but all members of the domain can freely join and read archives. A restricted group allows only group managers to invite new members, and only members of the group to post, view membership, or read archived messages. I'm going to create a team group. Since this is a group created within the organization's domain, I can specify whether or not I wish to grant anyone on the internet, as in people outside the domain, the ability to post messages to the group. This is only an option for team groups, since announcement only and restricted groups restrict posting to owners and members respectively, and public groups may only include users in your domain. helpful to establish a protocol within your domain for distinguishing users and groups, such as requiring a hyphen in all group addresses. If you conduct a search using the admin search bar, you will see that the icon to the left of each search result indicates whether the address is a group or an individual user. If you have not yet set up email for your domain, the admin console will prompt you for email setup. If you plan to use Gmail as your mail client, you'll want to make sure this process is complete. Much like adding a text or CNAME record during domain verification, setting up Gmail involves accessing your domain's host site and adding MX records to your DNS setting that will point your domain's email towards Google's mail servers. An MX record, or mail exchange record, is a DNS entry that tells servers which mail server is responsible for accepting email messages on behalf of your domain. If you purchased your domain from a Google partner during Workspace signup, this has likely been done for you already. If not, let's take a look at an overview of that process. Before adjusting your DNS mail settings, you'll want to make sure that Gmail is turned on for your domain. From the admin console, go to Apps, and then make sure that Gmail is turned on for the whole domain, or at least for any organizational units you would like to use Gmail. You can then use Google's step-by-step setup wizard to complete Gmail setup. To add MX records to your domain host, you'll now need to log into your domain host control panel and access DNS settings. Google provides instructions for the various domain hosts in the Mail Setup Wizard. If you're not prompted to use the Gmail Setup Wizard, you can also click MX Setup Instructions from within the Gmail app area. Google provides several MX records, including a primary mail server, as well as several alternates should one not be available. You may have one or more MX records present already that will need to be deleted before you add Google's MX records. Add each of Google's MX records and save your changes. Google will then verify your settings and finish setting up Gmail. MX record changes may take up to 48 hours to take effect. The verification process will continue to fail until the MX records have propagated, and the admin console will continue to prompt you to finish setting up mail until it's complete. If you run into any difficulty during this process, Google support is there to help you get set up. Whether you're a business, educational institution, government institution, or nonprofit, you likely have valuable data in your Google Workspace account that must be kept secure. From the Workspace admin console, you can perform administrative tasks for mobile devices, such as viewing the number of devices connecting to organizational accounts, viewing information about devices, setting password standards, remotely wiping data, managing applications, deploying apps, and much more. From the Workspace admin home screen, click Devices to see an overview of devices operating within your domain. These are divided into 6 categories. Mobile devices includes phones and tablets. Endpoint devices refer to devices in your organization that have been registered to have their access monitored by administrators. Chrome devices running on the Google Chrome operating system include Chromebooks and Chromeboxes. Managed browsers are managed instances of the Chrome web browser. Google Meet hardware and Jamboard devices refer specifically to Google-branded meeting and display hardware. For this overview, we'll focus on mobile devices and Chrome devices, though additional information about Google's video conferencing options is available from links in the device management area. For a user's device to be managed on your domain, they must be logged in using your organization's Workspace account. If mobile management is enabled, users will be required to complete the device management setup process before the account can be available to the user on the device. The device will then enforce the policy settings set by a Workspace administrator. Just as you can restrict Workspace applications to specific groups on your domain, you may also choose to restrict mobile management features to specific groups of users. From the device management console, click Settings, then Universal Settings to set protocols for devices on your domain, as well as any of the subgroups that you've established within your organization. You may wish to set stronger settings for specific groups of users, such as those handling more sensitive information, or simply enforce uniform settings across your entire domain. You'll find these settings under Universal Settings and General. There are 3 options: Basic, Advanced, and Custom. Basic mobile management enables the bare minimum security management tools, which includes setting a lock screen policy and remote account wipe. Advanced adds management for business apps, full device wipe, and device management rules. The Custom option allows you to choose separate mobile management options for Android, iOS, and Google Sync devices. For example, you might opt for basic protection for Google Sync, but enable more aggressive protection for Android or iOS mobile devices. Regardless of your level of mobile management, you still retain the ability to disable certain apps such as Gmail or YouTube entirely on your domain using app management from the Workspace admin console. Manage Mobile Devices enforces management setup before organization user accounts are available on the device. If you would prefer devices be approved by an admin first, return to the Universal Settings screen and select Device Approvals from under Security. Toggling on Require Admin Approval requires you to then set the email address of the admin who will approve the device activation. Device approvals will be held in queue and can be approved from the Device Approvals area under Device Management or from an individual user's profile page in the admin console. Since the Android operating system is developed by Google, these devices allow for more detailed data and information to be gathered and managed by the Workspace administrator than iOS devices. As a result, there are more options available for managing them on your Workspace domain. To enable mobile management from the home screen, click Devices, then from the left sidebar, select Settings, Universal Settings, and then General. If you want to save yourself a few clicks, you could also type Mobile Management in the search bar. While I could choose Basic to enforce a few password controls, remote wipe, and device protection, I'm going to choose Advanced so I can see the full selection of mobile management options, including work profiles. Advanced Management includes all the features of Basic Management, along with more stringent app controls and device hardware restrictions. With Advanced Management enabled, users must install the Device Policy app before they can add their organization's Google Workspace account. During installation, the app indicates to users what domain manages the device, what privileges the administrators have on the device, and when the device was last synced, as well as the location. The Device Policy app requires Android 5.0 and over. Full management features may be limited on older devices, if not unavailable entirely. It's also worth mentioning that only devices running Android 6.0 or later may be set as company-owned. These system requirements may change over time, so be sure to review the current system requirements in Google's documentation if you plan to rely on mobile management for your organization. If your organization has purchased and deployed devices for users on your domain, then Advanced Management gives Workspace administrators near total control over your device management. To simplify the setup of devices as company-owned, you may download a template to pre-input the serial numbers of company-owned devices. To do this, from the Device Management area of the admin console, select Mobile Devices and click the plus sign to add devices, then specify the type. From here, you have the option to download and fill out a template. Unless you have a policy preventing users from doing so, your users will likely have public Google accounts in addition to their organization's Workspace account, and they likely use their phones for personal as well as work-related use. To establish device management without infringing on personal use, you can also create work profiles using Android for Work. This feature, available on Android 5.0 and later, allows users to work within a managed area separate from your phone profile space. I'll use the breadcrumbs navigation to return to the Devices screen, and this time I'll select Settings and then Android Settings. Here, you will see a list of all of your options for Android mobile management. From the Work Profile area, admins may enforce work profiles, disable them, or allow them for users to opt into voluntarily. The remaining areas under Android settings include numerous toggle options, most of which are only applicable to company-owned devices and work profiles. I do want to highlight a few options under the general settings that apply to all device configurations. Turning on Application Auditing allows administrators to search for the occurrence of specific installed apps in the mobile devices area of device management. There are also options for setting ramifications of devices that do not sync, as well as auto-wipe settings for devices that do not meet established security requirements. If you have concerns about users using multiple versions of the Android operating system and want a uniform experience, you may opt to only enforce available policies on old versions of Android. This will match the policies of the group to those available on the oldest version of Android on your domain. This is less of a concern if your organization owns and distributes its own mobile iOS devices, a push certificate must be created by the administrator. Before beginning iOS push certificate setup, be sure Advanced Mobile Management is enabled under Devices, Universal Settings, General. Before you can enforce iOS device management, you must set up an iOS push certificate. Under the iOS settings area of device management, select Apple Certificates. My certificate has expired, so I'll select Set up New Certificate. From the Set up iOS Certificate page, download a Certificate Signing Request, or CSR file, which is required to download a signed certificate from Apple. Once the file is downloaded, follow the link to the Apple Push Certificate portal. You'll need to sign in with Apple credentials to create an Apple Push Certificate. The Apple Push Certificate portal will request the CSR file you downloaded from the Workspace admin console in order to create a new push certificate. Once you've created a new push certificate, download the file, return to the admin console, and check the box indicating you have an Apple Push certificate. Finally, select the certificate, indicate you've done so, and select Verify. Settings area, you'll find many of the same options as Android configuration, only customized for the iOS operating system. Just as with Android devices, the organizations list in the sidebar allows you to set options for your entire domain or for specific sub-organizations. Lock screen options allow you to customize what displays on the lock screen. Note that settings for iOS-specific applications like Photos and Safari are handled separately. Under Account Configurations, you can enable automatic configuration for the iOS user's Google account, calendar, and contacts, respectively, upon sign-in with the organization's Workspace account. Under Backup and iCloud Sync, you have the option to enable or disable iCloud Backup, document and data synchronization, and keychain, and also opt whether or not to force backup encryption. Lastly, Advanced Security includes settings for screen capture, Siri, Apple Watch, and handoff. While some security settings, such as Remote Auto Wipe and Lock Screen, are covered in the corresponding iOS and Android settings areas, there are additional global security settings for mobile management. Password strength settings may be established for both your domain as a whole or customized to meet requirements for certain groups within your organization. To view or modify password policies, from the universal settings of device management, select General, then Password Requirements, or search for it in the search bar of the admin console. The column to the left of the password policy box indicates the organizational unit you're viewing. Once you've selected the desired organization or sub-organization, be sure that Require Users to Set a Password is checked, and choose a password strength level to apply to this group. Standard or strong password strength levels allow for more customized settings, including character minimum, expiration settings, and allowed failures before device wipe. Detailed security options can be found in the Security section of Universal Settings. Note that enforcing these settings requires advanced device management to be enabled. At the top, Inactive Company-Owned Devices generates a monthly report of inactive company devices to super administrators. Setting Allow Camera to Off disables the camera on an Android or iOS device. Device Approvals requires admin approval before users can install their Workspace account on their device. Require Device Encryption forces an encryption-enabled Android device to use encryption. Finally, Compromised Devices blocks syncing from devices such as those using unlocked bootloaders, custom ROMs that replace the factory firmware, or jailbroken iOS devices. Keep in mind that blocking jailbroken devices will require iOS users to install the Google Device Policy app. Additional security settings, formerly found in the Security section, are now found in the Android or iOS settings areas. These include lock screen features such as allowing notification details on lock screen, as well as lock screen widgets. Your choices here will depend on your organization's security needs. It may be desirable to hide notification details or widgets, which could potentially potentially contain sensitive information and details. As a security measure, Auto Account Wipe enables the potential wiping of managed devices that do not sync after an established number of days, which may indicate that it is lost or stolen. The Device Policy app prompts the user to reconnect to the internet and sync data before performing account removal. Additionally, you may decide to allow users to initiate a remote device wipe from their My Devices page at www.google.com/apps/mydevices. This can also be done by an administrator from the user page, which will be covered in the next chapter. Once you've established your management settings, users may begin to set up their individual devices. As a workspace administrator, you may view each user's device information, such as the number of devices used, the device model, operating system version, and sync information. The device information can be accessed from both an individual user's profile and the device management area. You can pull up a user profile by either searching for them by name in the search bar or browsing the list of users in the users area. From their profile, scroll down to view the number of devices assigned to the user. If 0 devices are listed, the user has not set up their mobile device to access the organization account. Device approval is pending, or device approval information is not yet available. Information such as the username, email, device model, operating system version, last sync day, and status are immediately visible. I'll click the device to view the full information available. More detailed information is available from this screen, including the device ID and serial number, encryption status, compromise status, and a list of potentially harmful applications. If your device management settings require devices to be approved by an administrator, this can be done under Device Management, Device Approvals. From here, you can approve a device or reapprove it if the device has been manually blocked. Likewise, you may also remotely block or wipe approved devices from this area as well. 2 different wipe options are available. Wipe device completely wipes the device, deleting all information, apps, and settings. Wipe account will simply remove the user's organization account from the device without touching other accounts or application data. Delete device removes the administrative record of the device. This is a way of refreshing the device information, which happens upon the next device data sync. The next time the device syncs, it will be treated as a first sync. If connecting to wireless or Ethernet at your organization requires specific credentials, you may preload these settings to deploy to manage mobile devices. These devices will automatically be recognized and connect to your network using the pre-established settings. This can be done both for your entire organization or for smaller organizational units. It should be noted that these policies are enforced after users sign in to prevent a situation where a device is unable to connect due to a change in network hardware. In the event of a network misconfiguration, users would be able to sign in, but would be unable to connect to the internet once they have done so. To access network settings from the admin console, select Devices, then Networks from the left sidebar. Here, you'll see a list of network settings to choose from. You may specify the ways in which users on managed devices can connect. It's important to remember that restricting access to specific networks may prevent users from accessing public or even home networks. If you know what network access you wish to set up for your devices, you can begin setting these up by returning to the network screen. Also remember that you can set up for specific organizational units by selecting from the column on the left. For this example, I'll set up a Wi-Fi network. First, I'll need to indicate what type of devices will be able to connect to the Wi-Fi network. By User is supported for mobile devices, Chromebooks, and Android tablets set up with Workspace for Education, while By Device is supported for Chromebooks and Google Meeting Room hardware. From here, I'll enter the Wi-Fi settings, giving my network a name to act as the identifier. I'll use default training XYZ Wi-Fi. Below it, I'll use the Wi-Fi SSID and indicate if it's broadcast and whether or not to automatically connect. To enter the Wi-Fi password, select the security type, and then from the drop-down box, fill in the network's information. Specify proxy or DNS settings if necessary, and click Save. Likewise, you may optionally configure for Ethernet, VPN, and network access certificates if desired from the networks area. Additional Wi-Fi settings for Chromebooks are found at the bottom of this page, while Android or iOS network settings may be found in their respective device settings areas. proper network configuration details. Deploying incorrect or bad network settings to your organization can cripple your users' managed devices. Should you choose to set up and deploy network settings to manage devices, it's highly recommended to test on smaller organizational units before deploying to the entire organization to prevent large-scale errors. If you're using Chrome devices, such as Chromebook laptops or Chromebox desktop computers, app management can be done through two views. User settings, where app policy is set by organizational unit, or through app management, where app-specific settings can be set individually by app. While the two views provide different approaches, app configuration can be completed in either area. Let's take a look at the navigation settings under each view. To get to user settings from the admin home screen, click Devices, Chrome, Settings, and Users and Browsers. On the left, as you've seen before, in the Users area, you'll find your organization as well as any sub-organizations you've created. By default, sub-organizations will inherit settings from the parent organization, though you can select sub-organizations and change these. The options are extensive, allowing you to customize everything from appearance and user experience to printing options and even hardware settings, such as audio and video input. In the security section, you may set security policies for your Chrome device. Items that can be enabled, disabled, or left up to the user include the password manager, the lock screen, browser history, show password name, incognito mode, safe browsing, and geolocation. Additionally, you can set minimum SSL version, set up remote access restrictions, and force ephemeral mode, where local data is erased upon closing the browser. Previously located under Android applications, the setting for managing apps for Chrome OS users is now located on a separate apps and extensions page. Here, you can manage Chrome devices, manage browsers, printers, as well as determine whether or not users enable the Google Play Store, as well as where the users can find and download additional apps. Alternatives to enabling open access to the Google Play Store could be to restrict the available apps on Chrome devices in the app management view, or to use the Chrome Web Store section to choose a list of apps and extensions to be available on the device. By default, users may install any application, and you may continue to allow this, while blacklisting specific apps, or you could blacklist all apps while specifically allowing certain apps. Admins may also opt to force install certain applications and prohibit users from installing these apps. To get to the app management area, if you haven't already, select Apps and Extensions drop-down in the breadcrumbs navigation at the top of the screen. Let's say I want to disable YouTube for my organization, with the exception of the marketing group who manages our organization's YouTube presence and needs it installed on their devices. First, I'll click the plus sign in the corner and select Add from Google Play. I'll search for YouTube and select it when it appears in the search results. From here, I have the option to specify settings for logged-in users on my domain, as well as settings for any user accessing YouTube on a managed device, whether they're logged in or not. In my case, I want to only lock down the use of YouTube while logged in as a user on my domain. Right now, when I select my domain, I can see that by default YouTube is enabled. To change this, I'll toggle YouTube off by changing it to block, and then click Save. Now, when I look at the marketing sub-organization, I see that YouTube is disabled there as well. I'll enable YouTube by changing it to Allow, and then click Save. YouTube is now available to manage devices of users in the marketing group. Please note that these settings will only apply to Chrome devices. General app settings for all organization Google accounts, as well as web and mobile apps, can be found in the Apps area of the Admin console. This concludes the device management overview for Google Workspace. As new devices and mobile OS versions appear, you may find new and updated configuration options in the Admin console. For further support on existing and new mobile management options, be sure and consult Google's official help documentation or contact Google support for assistance. The Reports section of Google Workspace provides statistics and trends for your domain, as well as specific user data and account status. You can also view the general activity of administrators, check the visibility of documents on your domain, and view login activity. You might use this data to adjust settings for specific workspace applications, including disabling some that are not being used or usage on the domain, displaying commonly used reports such as account status, user activity, storage usage, and how files are shared externally in Google Drive. While you cannot edit the layout of the highlights page, you can look at each of these categories in more detail by selecting View Details in the corner of the graph, or selecting a specific report from the list in the left toolbar. The downward arrow indicates that what you're currently viewing can be exported and downloaded as either a CSV file or a Google presentation. The graphs available in the Reports section are auto-configured to maximize clarity for the data, showing monthly report data with the y-axis adjusted for the data range. Additionally, I can hover over parts of the graph to view more in-depth information about the data displayed. While you won't see complete data for the full history of the reports, you can do a more in-depth search using audits. The date the most recent data was collected will generally fall behind the current date by a couple of days, as it takes time for Google to process and report on the domain activity data. Most reports have a lag time of 1 to 3 days, while audit reports reflect near real time. For most audit reports, data is saved for 6 months, with some reports like Chrome apps and version reports being retained for up to a year. For a full breakdown, consult the Data Retention and Lag Times report in the Google Workspace Admin Help area. Report categories include Apps Reports, User Reports, and Device Reports. Apps Reports look at data for individual Workspace applications, while Device Reports provide a breakdown of managed devices on your domain. User Reports provide a closer look at user activity and trends. They also include the Security section, which allows you to filter users based on factors such as the number of external workplace apps installed, two-step verification, account status, external and internal file shares, external and internal link shares, and various other security-related settings. These statistics can give you a clearer idea of what features are getting the most use in your domain and provide a by-user breakdown. Audits provide specific user-level analysis of events on your domain, which can include actions such as service changes, user creation and deletion, and license assignments. At the very bottom of this list are alerts, which are auto-generated reports based on predefined circumstances, and a link to view an overview of the Workspace app's monthly uptime. Between all of these, you can easily monitor both suspicious and benign activity on your domain. In the Reports area of the Admin Console, you may view individual security and activity reports, as well as aggregated reports by selecting them in the sidebar. You'll begin on the Highlights page, which provides an overview of apps usage and file sharing activity, as well as user and security stats. Below these are reports of various Google apps. Use the download arrow to either export your report to Google Sheets or download it in the CSV format. Only a limited number of reports are shown by default, but you may view a list of available reports by clicking Manage Reports in the top right and using the checkbox to toggle reports on and off. Currently, all reports are visible. If I click an X to the right of a report, it disappears from the list, but can be found in the Add New Column dropdown. I'll leave these as is and click Cancel. You may need to scroll to see all the reports you've enabled. Click Reports in the breadcrumbs at the top of the screen to return to the Reports Highlights page. While Apps and Device Reports display in graph format, User Reports are displayed as a list of users in the domain that can be filtered based on various criteria. For this example, we'll look at security reports. You'll find the download button at the top right, as well as the buttons above for org unit, group, and date filters. The gray gear icon in the corner can be used to show or hide column headings. Additional filters may be added using the Add a Filter button directly above the graph, which allows for quick filtering by the various column headings. For example, I can choose to only see users who have installed external apps by selecting External Apps greater than 0. The filter may be removed by clicking the gray X. Found in the Reports area of the Admin Console sidebar, audits provide a log of activity within your domain. The Admin Audit Log, for example, displays all administrative tasks performed, as well as which administrator performed the task, what time, and the IP address from which the Admin Console was accessed. Login audits include all login and logout activity, as well as the time and IP address. Additional audits it available only to super admins, allowing them to check delivery logs for message transit information. The audit log can contain hundreds, even thousands of events per day, depending on the size of your organization. With all that data, filters are an invaluable resource for helping you find what you need. With the filter area visible, you can enter filtering information to narrow down your search. From the admin audits, I'm going to conduct a search of all recent organizational unit changes. To do this, I'll type org unit in the event name field. Notice that even as I type it, a drop-down box appears with several autocomplete options. I'll choose user org unit change. If I'm looking for org unit changes for a specific user, I could enter their name here. Additionally, since organizational unit changes must be initiated by an administrator, I could also choose to filter by the admin making the change. Lastly, I can also set a date and time range to search within. Let's look at a different type of filter. Let's say I want to know if a specific user has ever successfully logged into my domain. Since this is an audit related to login activity, I want to consult the login audits. The first thing I see is a list of all login and logout activity, but I'm mostly interested in one particular user, Jess Stratton. I'm going to choose successful login from the list of events, which narrows down my events to only successful logins. Now, I'll filter my list even more by typing Jess's email address into the username field. At this point, my list of events has narrowed down to only the successful logins by Jess Stratton. Once I've established the criteria for my audit search, the Set Alert button turns from gray to white, indicating that I have the option to set an alert for further instances of this specific scenario. Clicking the Set Alert button opens up a pop-up window where I can set alert preferences. I'll give the alert a name, preferably one that describes the nature of the alert. Below the filters, you'll indicate who will receive the alert when the action happens. You can click the Super Administrator box for all super administrators to receive an alert. Or you can specify a different email address to receive the alert. While you cannot navigate there directly from the audits area, you can view a list of all alerts by clicking the Manage Reporting Rules under Reporting in the menu sidebar. Here, reporting is a filtered list among a longer list of alerts. Removing the reporting filter displays the full list of predefined and custom alerts, the recipient of the alert emails, as well as the current status of the alert. The Security section of the Admin Console allows you to adjust security settings for your Google Workspace domain. Before adjusting settings in this area, you'll want to consult your organization's data security policies, and if you have one, refer to your organization's information security officer. Found in this section are some functions you're already familiar with, such as rules in the Alert Center. Data protection provides an automated report of files stored in Drive that may contain sensitive data, specifically email addresses, phone numbers, as well as how many of these files are shared externally. This data may be used to determine if additional data security steps may be needed. Under Password Management are additional settings for customizing password options, such as strength, length, and when these rules take effect. You may also choose whether or not to allow users to reuse old passwords and set a frequency for password expiration, which determines how often users will be required to change their password. Less Secure Apps determines how apps that do not support current security standards are handled. You may opt to disable access to these apps entirely, or allow users to make that determination themselves. Two-step verification is a feature which provides an additional layer of security during user sign-in. After entering their username and password, Google sends a verification code to the user's mobile device, which must be entered before the user can proceed with login. You may choose a custom date to begin enforcement, turn it on immediately, or keep it off. When it is on, you must also specify the two-step verification method and frequency. In the left sidebar, you can opt to apply a different security setting to sub-organizations within your domain, allowing you to enforce two-step verification for specific user groups if desired. Account recovery determines which users may use automated self-recovery to log in if they forget their password. Given their high level of administrative access, you may choose to disable the ability of super admins to reset their accounts, requiring another super admin to do it. However, smaller organizations with fewer super admins may find this to be context-aware access, session control options, and security and privacy resources. Other settings include SAML-based single sign-on and administrative API, as well as advanced settings which include security features for managing user authentication and third-party integrations. These settings can vary by the type of organization and their individual security policies, so contact your system administrator, information security officer, or Google support for assistance with configuring these settings. Thank you for watching Administering Google Workspace. Now that you have Workspace up and running on your domain, you might be ready for focused training on the individual Google apps and services. If you've deployed Workspace at an educational institution, I'd recommend Google Classroom. For individual apps, essential training courses are available for most apps and services. You might consider the Creating and Managing Your Google Account course, which contains helpful hints on Google account management at the user level. Also, if your organization plans to transition from a Microsoft Office environment to Google, you'll want to watch Migrating from Office to Google. Lastly, to stay up to date on new features and updates to Google products and services, follow the G Suite Updates blog at gsuiteupdates.com.